Hello again, Jim Dowson here, guest presenter with the Templar Daily Report. I hope you're all doing very well and rejoicing. And even if you're not doing very well, still rejoice, because the Lord has given us all a life and we must live it to its fullest. And I seen a man the other day, an American guy, ex-veteran, and he blew up with a bomb, and he had no arms and no legs. And I'd never seen such a positive guy. He says, hey, listen, I'm just glad that I'm still here. Unbelievable courage and bravery. And guess what? Yep, he's running, walking. He's doing walking, running, doing all sorts of stuff, all these bionic bits of him. But he's like, no, it's fine, it's great, I'm still here. A lot of my comrades didn't make it back. What an attitude. And that's what I call a real warrior. God bless you, sir. I can't remember the guy's name, but maybe our American friends know who he is. What a man. What a man. Not a whinge out the fella. Great. Anyway, today, remember, like the video, click subscribe, press the bell, comment below, and share. Today we've got a very special guest, and I know everybody enjoys this guest when he comes on. It's Mr. Nick Griffin. How you doing, Nick?
I'm fine, thank you, Jim.
And this, again, he is the most successful Conservative right-wing politician in the UK, if not Europe. So great to have you on, Nick. Wonderful. And I worked with Nick many years ago, and it was a very good experience, very interesting, very intense. Took years off my life, set me completely insane for a while, but it was a wonderful time. And unlike all these bubbleheads who rant and rave about politics and don't know what they're talking about, Mr. Griffin was elected to very high office. He was a member of the European Parliament. Obviously opposes European Parliament, but he was a member of it to upset them, and he did upset them greatly. But the party also had dozens, scores maybe, of councillors, and a seat in the London Assembly, with Boris Johnson was there, who wouldn't even talk to the BNP guy. But this is a man who's actually achieved very high office, ran a big, sprawling party, basically on his own. So I came along and gave him a hand, but he was on his own for years. So any of these people who pontificate and say, Griffin doesn't know what he's talking about, seriously, it's lunacy. This is the only man in Britain who does know what he's talking about in political realms and all the rest of it. I hope that wasn't too... I hope I didn't overgild a lily, because I know I didn't. But Nick, what do you see now in Britain? Before we get into this, what do you see at the moment when you look at right-wing politics?
Pretty much a vacuum. Certainly has been. Obviously, while Brexit was the big issue, even people who didn't really fancy UKIP understood it was the only way to go as a way of pushing for Brexit. So it blocked everything for a long, long time. Plus, of course, there's a lot of the hardcore, the real nationalists, the people that I've worked with for many years. We always knew that we were on a race against time in demographic terms. I remember I was speaking at BNP meetings all over the country in 1994, and I said, we've got 20 to 25 years, and after that, demographically, that's it. We haven't turned it around by that stage. It's too late to turn it around. There's no ballot box solution to this. In fact, there is no solution. There's no way of stopping the disaster happening. And I was saying that 25 years ago, 25 years have passed, and that's it. So there's been a complete vacuum. I do see now with what Jada Franson's doing, there's at least something here which has got the potential to pull people together who understand what's coming. I don't think that Jada for 1 minute thinks that it can be turned around. She's not saying, support me, vote for me, we're going to save everything. Everything will be lovely, folks. You can all go back to sleep. She's not saying that. It would be unrealistic. But I think from where she's coming from, she's, especially say with the simple thing of putting up the flags in Northern Ireland and saying that's going to be rolled out to the mainland. That's the sort of real life practical work which I believe there's a huge hunger for in Britain in general and England in particular. Some years ago when you used to say to people, we're going to be a minority in our own country, most people would say, don't be so ridiculous. Now they all say, well, I know, it's too late to stop it. What are we going to do? And the answer has to be to start saying, well, we're going to be the biggest minority. If we're organised and well-behaved and strong and effective, then we're not going to be a minority that's pushed around. And so I think there's a huge hunger for that. And I think that now that the Brexit thing's basically out of the way, that there's a chance now to get back to proper, serious politics in Britain, as long as it's realistic.
Yeah, I think you're right, Nick, and I agree with you. Now, just before we get into this, a couple of things there I want to address in a wee minute, but I just want to give a wee bit of scripture reading, because we like to start off with this. So, I'm reading today from John 4. John, is it 4? Wait a minute. It is John 4, verse 13, just to be short, 13 and 14. Jesus answered and said unto her, Whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. Amen. May God bless the public reading of his own infallible, inerrant, and inspired word. Amen. So, yes, I seen somebody saying there, scroll up a wee bit, brother, just to see. Now, somebody said, somebody asked there, is Nick Griffin, is Philip Milne, Nick Griffin a Templar? Well, Nick doesn't answer these questions, and a lot of Templars, it is a semi-clandestine organisation. So, people tend not to answer questions that they don't need to answer. But and somebody else said there, Tar, that Nick should get re-involved in mentoring. What do you think he's been doing the last few years? He's been out at most of the Templar HQs all over the planet, in Serbia and Hungary and Slovakia, Czech Republic, Brussels. He's still involved with APF. He's mentoring young people and young nationalists all the time. He's still the deputy chairman of the APF. The
APF, and also heavily involved with Europatone Nostra, which is the foundation side of that. They're the people who are very heavily connected with the Swedes, who are running the fantastic House of the Swedes initiative in the middle of the country, and doing work with them. I do appreciate people saying I should be involved in mentoring though, and the book that I'm writing, as opposed to the Deus Vult, which, as you know, I've been involved with on the editing front, it's very heavily about mentoring young people and putting forward a realistic and constructive strategy for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And even the Templar book is very much on that same vein as well, really trying to encourage people. It's a tough book. I mean, it doesn't pull its punches, but we're looking for men in the future who won't survive. So the book is there to really slap you up the head and tell you to go and have a look at yourself in the mirror. So it's a really good book. So on that, and I'm sure one of your mods who's out there moderating can put a link up. If you haven't got the book yet, please get your pre-ordering, because these are going to go. These are going to go. The minute they hit the bricks here, they're going to go. People are going wild for them. So that's good. It's excellent. So get your orders in. I'm sure one of the mods will stick the thing up. So there. Now, somebody else, let me just go up. Who's in the room today? Let's see, brother. Let's see who's in the room. We'll try and skip through this very quickly. But people take the time to come in. They like to thank them. Now, who's this? Englishman's Miscellany. How you doing? Nice to see you. Lady Rotha. Good to see Lady Rotha always. Andy, God bless you, my dear, dear brother. Ewan Eggestrom. Nice to see you. Who else have we got there? John Andrews. Yep. Christopher Machocha. Bart Myers. Ralph Rowley. Alan Catterall, how you doing? John Van Aitken, lovely man, always here. Donald Pollock, yep. Malcolm Cook, Bartley Burker, Troy Otto, Scott Rash, and I never spelt your name wrong. No, it wasn't me. And BP, nice to see you. Who else we got? Gary Hardwick, nice to see you. God bless you. Paul Telford, our new young brother, nice to see you in, Paul. Greg Howarth, great fella. Jim Young. Michael B. Tar 1985, that's who I was referring to there a minute ago. I picked up your question. Neville Walker, God bless you, Neville. William Poteet from West Virginia, great man, absolutely knockout fella. James Ralph, Dan Guerra, brilliant guys. Steve Trussell, William Mumford, Joseph Taylor, Krista S. Yep, and Spider, one of your top boys, Spider Rogers, God bless you, Spider, nice to see you in the room. Mr. Robello, God bless you. Ellie Renews, how are you? Philip Milne, a great brother, Philip, great brother. Christopher Trujillo, yep. Robert Erickson, lovely to see you in Canada. Now we've got an Irishman there, I think, T.T. Foley, James Williams, Kenneth Driver, must far to go. Clinton Dixon. Clinton, God bless you, bro. He's another one of your top fellas. Clinton Dixon, important man in the order. Ellie Ronnie, yep, great stuff. Stuart Duncan, new one, I think. or fairly new. And persona non grata. Now, yep, excellent. Now, remember, I see a lot of these fake names popping up again. Now, because a lot of folk are new to the room, let me just explain something. We really don't like fake names. I like people to come on here using their own name. Because this is a grown-up page for grown-up fighting Christian people. We fear nothing other than the Lord, so try not to use the funny name. Naomi Ford, how you doing? God bless you, order 2. Well done. John Knott, excellent. John Knott, of course. Welcome, everybody. God bless each and every one of you. Now, Mr. Griffin, we'll go on to the book in a wee minute, but I want to just point out and see what you know about this. The Hagia Sophia, I don't know if that's the right pronunciation, the one-time centre of Christendom. You had the Western Church based in Rome and the Orthodox Church based in Constantinople, which folk could argue was the main church for a long time. Fell to the Ottomans away back in the 12th century or 13th century. 15th century, yeah, it was overrun, and it's been a mosque for a long time, and then it wasn't a mosque. Now Erdogan has made it a mosque again and wants to destroy some of the stuff. What's going on with this, Nick? Because I think it's tomorrow this is happening.
Yes, as you said, it was the cathedral of the Orthodox world in Constantinople. After the fall, it became a mosque and stayed a mosque until the end of the First World War, when Kemal Ataturk, who was good in places and bad in others, but where he was good was he dismantled the Islamism of the old Ottoman Empire, and he couldn't put it back to a church, obviously. That was politically impossible. But he said it's not going to be a mosque anymore. This is going to be a museum, thereby taking it out of the realm of Islamism and so on. And it's been a museum ever since. And Erdogan, of course, is the leader of an avowedly Islamist party. And they've now said that tomorrow there's going to be the first Muslim service in this great Christian cathedral since 1921. So the Islamist world are celebrating. If it was just a one-off something, you could think, well, it's internal politics. Much more than that. Erdogan sees himself as he's a megalomaniac. He sees himself as the, in effect, sultan of a revived Ottoman Empire. So this is a sort of symbolic thing, but on top of that, the Turks are pouring vast amounts of money into re-establishing mosques throughout their old empire, particularly in the Balkans, right the way up into Bulgaria and so on. We've seen some of the mosques they funded in Kosovo when we were there several years ago, taking the aid down there. And he's also got the whole army at present fighting in Libya, fighting alongside hardcore ISIS and Al-Qaeda jihadis. The Turkish military actually has shipped thousands of them from Syria, where, thank God, and with the help of the Russians and the Iranians, the Syrians are defeated these head-cutting monsters. So he's shipping the defeated Islamists out of Syria, and he's shipping them over to Libya to have another go. And it's actually even more dangerous for Europe because, of course, if Libya ends up firmly in the hands of real hardcore Islamists, then it's just a hop, skip and jump across a very shallow, quiet sea, and they're in Italy and France and so on. So it's really serious, Erdogan's ambitions, and this is the most symbolic thing. All proper Orthodox Christians are in uproar about it, obviously, and it's a mark of enormous shame, I would say, on not just the usual suspects, the Democrats, the Labour Party, but also Boris Johnson, also Donald Trump, that nobody in the West has said a word about this monstrous attack on the heart of Orthodox Christianity, symbolically and historically.
It's shocking. And Nick, I was with you. Well, I don't know, I would admit that these days I was still in denial. I can't remember how the legal situation is. It has been rumoured. It has been suggested. You've got legal training from Cambridge, man. It has been suggested that we took alleged that we were involved in taking a huge convoy of non-lethal military equipment to our brothers and sisters behind enemy lines in Kosovo to support the Christians. That's the allegation. If it proves true, I'd be quite happy to have been part of that. But at the moment, it's an allegation because I think the arrest warrants are still sitting there. However, let's see. We done another tourist trip there, shall we say? And I was amazed, I don't know about you, but these kind of ready-made mosques that the Turks had paid for all over Kosovo, they're just like these ready-made, like Little Chef or Wendy's or Burger King, you know, or McDonald's. They just bump. They just come in within 24 hours, they plop down. I was amazed at that, and I'm sure you were, but I was also amazed that all the Muslim villages were flying flags, "We love USA," and they were flying American flags. That shocked me. Shocked me.
That was truly shocking, but it's not really surprising because Kosovo is the very heart of Serbia. Culturally, symbolically, and in every way, shape, and form, it is Serbia. And the reason that the Serbians lost it is partly demographic, because they allowed, or past Serbian governments allowed Muslim immigration, and then the Serbs didn't have enough kids, so they ended up a minority in their own homeland, being ethnically cleansed by low-level but persistent violence against them. And when the Serbian government then stepped in to stop this and to re-establish Serbian control, the West, Britain as well, it's not just America, but basically it's Bill Clinton and Tony Blair launched a bombing war that went on for 3 months, solid, against Serbia. At the time, this was in the dark days of Russia, when it was under liberal Western puppets, Gorbachev and Yeltsin and so on, so they did nothing. And in the end, the Serbs had to give way because their infrastructure was being taken apart. Their army wasn't defeated. Their army was very, very effective. They basically hunkered down, camouflaged, and suffered very, very small losses. But the Allies turned to what I'm afraid is not an age-old trick, but an old trick of terror bombing civilians. And the Allied bombing of civilian sites in the main cities in Serbia, the bridges across the Danube and all the rest of it, TV stations deliberately targeting journalists who were telling the truth, unusual for journalists, but they were, so they got bombed. Absolutely disgusting war crimes by our leaders, which meant the Serbs lost control of Serbia temporarily. They'll get it back one day, just as Constantinople one day will be Christian again. That's a long time in the future. So the Americans and the British put the Kosovan cutthroats, and they are Albanian Islamist cutthroats. It's a narco state, and they put them in control in Kosovo. They let them force out the Serbs, and so in gratitude, these Islamist cutthroats, of course, whose drugs empires have very close connections with the American deep state, that mustn't be forgotten, and the American army, the American military in Bondsteel, the big camp down there, that's also notorious for being involved in large amounts of drug smuggling from the Middle East up through Kosovo and then into poison the streets and the kids of Europe. It's all going on. So those Islamist gangsters are very grateful to the USA and Bill Clinton. And as you say, every single village is flying American flags. It's truly
we have got pictures. We must try and dig them out, because I don't think our American viewers, I don't think they'll think we're lying, but I think they'll find it very, very hard to understand. We'll maybe do this tomorrow. Some will try and dig out pictures, but it's true. I've been there, I've seen it with my own eyes. Hardcore Islamist villages flying "We Love America" flags and the Stars and Stripes. It's actually incredible, because
I think you haven't quite done justice describing the mosques either, because these things, they're almost like, you could say it's like a Wendy's or something like that. I'd say it's more like a spaceship, because they go these huge minarets and they're all shiny silver things, and it's not one per village. You've got a locked up or even ruined church, smashed up Christian graveyards, and next to them you've got 1, 2, 3 of these bright, shiny, prefabricated mosques. And in the West, we tend to think of prefab buildings as, little things which are there just temporarily. These are huge prefabricated mosques which massively overshadow everything else in the area, and they're there as a very powerful symbolism.
And they've destroyed the Christian graveyards in every village.
Islamism.
Did you notice that now? All the Christian graveyards are destroyed.
All of them. And the minarets have to be higher than the church tower. And it's enough to illustrate dominance to have one minaret higher than the church tower. But when you've got 3 whole mosques and they're all higher than the church tower, it's the most astounding thing. And this isn't some country a long way away. This is actually in the middle of the southern bit of Europe. This is a bridgehead of radical Islamism in the middle of our continent, thanks to Western elites.
Now, I just seen one of our brothers here putting something up that was very strange. Alan Cotterill. He's saying one problem in the new Ottoman Empire is Israel, the children of God. You're talking.
Well, we can either deal with that one politically or theologically.
You do the politics, I'll do the theology.
Okay, so politically, something that I can understand why people think this. When I was 15, I first got involved in nationalist politics. I did myself, and it took in those days a year's reading the monthly magazine to understand there was more to it than brave little Israel and all these communist Arabs. It's not that at all. So just one thing to make someone very easy to remember, to research, find out and think about. That while the Syrian secular government has been fighting for its life against Al-Qaeda and ISIS, the people who've blown up numerous targets in the West as well as in Syria, while the Syrian army was fighting tooth and nail desperately to save not just the Muslims of Syria, but also the Christians, particularly the Christians of Syria. While that was going on, brave little Israel, just like Britain for that matter and the United States, particularly under Obama, was providing arms for the Islamist cutthroats, ammunition for the Islamist cutthroats, money for the Islamist cutthroats, and in the case of Israel, they were patching up thousands of them in Israeli military field hospitals and then sending them back to murder Christians and decent moderate Muslims, Shia and so on in Syria. That's the reality of glorious little Israel. It's a monster. It's closely allied, in fact, to Turkey. It's stopping Turkey. If you look into it, Turkey and Israel, just like Israel and Saudi Arabia, the Israelis, these hardcore Zionists, they have a very close relationship with the Saudi cutthroats because actually they want Muslims to behave so badly that other people think that, well, in the end, Israel's not as bad. But they're partly responsible for that. I'm not being anti-Semitic here, I'm stating a fact. I can also say that the British intelligence services over several hundred years have also, for the same reasons very much, encouraged the very radical Islam that now comes back and bites us all. It's a matter of divine
and I see this week, Nick, I see this week that Israel and Turkey are actually teaming up to fight Egypt.
Yes. Yeah, Israel and Turkey are teaming up to fight Egypt in Libya. Partly, of course, it's about oil, but more than that, it's about the Egyptians are on the side of basically the secular Arab nationalists in Libya, and and the French as well, surprisingly enough, and the rest of the West and Turkey and Israel are there on the side of Al-Qaeda, on the side of the people who, assuming you believe the story, on the side of the people who blew up the World Trade Center. Israel is on their side right now in Libya.
I don't even think we need a theological thing. I think that's as much for today that people need to know. You know, as a British person, I remember the Falklands War and those missiles that were fired, French-made missiles were fired at our ships and killed our people, Sir Galahad and the Sheffield and that. They were supplied by Israel to the Argentinians. One of the first massive bombing campaigns against British people was in Israel, the King David Hotel. Although it was Britain who'd done the Balfour Agreement and mandated that the Jewish people get this land for themselves, they turned on us and killed hundreds of British people. So, you know,
can I also just
madness.
Say one thing, Jim, again, for Americans, just look up USS Liberty. American ship almost destroyed by the Israeli Air Force by way of a false flag attack to try to get the Americans into war on behalf of Israel in 1967. This is a long, much more complicated picture than people who just think what they've been told by some thoroughly dishonest TV evangelist.
It's terrible. But that's what we're up against. But, you know, that's it. We have to be. Templars are fairly well informed, and most of our people are fairly sensible, which is, you know, a great gift of God. Now, I just seen somebody come in the room there. Scorpion, you're late. I seen one of the lads saying he's going to fine you for being late. But you're welcome in the room. Now, I just want to bring our attention to the book, the Deus Vault. The Reconquista of the Reconquista of the West, and it's the handbook to survive the Great Replacement and the coming revolution. That's a title of a Irish revolutionary, Padraig Pearse, but it's a good title. There is a revolution coming. There's a civil war coming all over the world. A great realignment of everything we've known before is going to pass away, and all things are going to become new, and it's coming. And then, I don't think we need to convince anybody it's coming. We just need to look outside our windows. We know it's coming. But this book, we were a bit worried about it. We didn't know if it was going to go as well as we thought, but they're flying out, and I'm a bit worried now that because it's pre-order. I think people really need to get swift and get pre-ordering these, because they are we've been inundated. I mean, I think since I came into the Priory today, and I was quite late in because I had I was entertaining some people, patriots of me, and I was a bit late with them. But I've seen 30 something going out, being pre-ordered just in the time I've been in the Priory before I come on air. 30 something. It's quite incredible. So really, folks, if you want to get your hands on these and you want to get some for gifts, you need to do it now. It's quite urgent. Are you surprised at that, Mr. Griffin?
I'm pleasantly surprised, especially at present, because we've only had the publicity that we put out, and since, as you know all too well, since Facebook eliminated our base, we haven't got anything like the reach we used to have. But I'm absolutely sure that when the proverbial hits the fan over this, which it will, because the hardcore left, possibly the mainstream media, won't actually get hold of this book and read it, they are going to see that this isn't a bunch of slightly strange religious crackpots have gone off somewhere. This really is at the centre. We are facing a religious war on two fronts. We're facing a religious war with the Wahhabis, with the Islamists. And we also face a religious war with the liberals, who are atheists. And they hold their atheism, and the communists hold their atheism with a religious fanaticism, without a shadow of a doubt, because it is a pseudo-religion. Most people need religion. It's hardwired in us. So if you haven't got Christianity, you get something else. So we're facing a war on two fronts for Christianity, the survival of the West or of Christendom. And you can't fight that with ideology. You can't fight that with reason. You have to fight it with equal degrees of unreason to theirs, equal degrees of faith to theirs, or more. Yeah. So this is where this book does something which I've not seen. I was trying to think about it. Jean also produced a wonderful book called Action. He was a French Catholic intellectual, probably produced early 1970s. That was a very powerful book. Douglas Hyde's book about how he ceased being a communist and became a Catholic and a fervent opponent of communism for I Believed. That was a book produced in the 1950s. I can't think of anything, actually. There have been some very fine Christian books about the need to disassociate from liberal society and reinvent the church, sort of almost as a monastic type operation, with families being involved, taking themselves out of the dying Sodom and keeping as separate as they can. There's some fine books like that, but they're not in any way political. And although we say there's no political road, this is a deeply political book as well as a book full of faith. It's full of ideas, but it's also full of real practicality, strategy and tactics. And I think it is unique, and I think that when the left see it, they are going to squeal. And then we may be up, I think you mentioned it the other day, we may be up against possible demands that should be banned, because it is a revolutionary book on counter-revolution in revolutionary times, and certainly there's a lot of pressure brought to bear. And I think that also once the news goes out that there's something really different, we're going to see sales go through the roof. I'm pretty sure of that, but I'm very pleased that we got good sales before that.
Well, I don't think there's enough ordered, to be honest with you, because the order's sitting at 1,500, and I think they'll be gone by this time. I think they'll be gone by this time next week. I'm not sure, so now you look at that. Not really sure, but so if you don't have your books now, please get your orders in immediately. Now, Brother Petit, let me apologise. Now, Spider was saying somebody needs a book signed. No problem with that. Now, we forgot all about it today because, as I say, we had two different groups in here today who we help, two patriotic groups in, and we've spent 2 days rejigging their computer stuff. That's what Templars do, stuff behind the scenes. It's not very sexy, it's not exciting, but it's vital. Doing their accounting system, their data gathering system, all that great stuff, Mr. Griffin, that we've done across the world. Mm-hmm. But we've done this at government level. So 2 Patriot groups were in today, and the last 2 days we've been really helping them youngsters out and getting them on the ball. And we're very happy to do so. That's why we're here. That's why you buy things. That's where your money goes. So we've got 2 groups now who have been totally totally revolutionised in their systems, and now that makes them stronger to go and try and take back their own countries, and we're happy to do that. But what we were supposed to do, because I showed people yesterday, it's a big sturdy King James giant print Bible, really sturdy piece of kit, this one. And we were meant to get a page up for it today, and one of our brothers here, dear brother Petit, was asking how much is it. I still don't fully know, but I'm going to just take a call on this. I'm going to say it's $165 plus postage. $165 plus postage, but again, it's French Moroccan leather. It's the absolute best quality you can imagine, made in Cambridge. You know Cambridge, Mr. Griffin, you went to the university.
I do indeed. I did, yes.
History, handmade, all that good stuff. Beautiful book. This is more a book for taking to the church, going out and about. You can bend it, you can do all that stuff. It won't break it. It's quite incredible. They've made this, old school. Brilliant. It's indestructible. So we'll try and we will get the page up tomorrow. I'm going to write it down here. Page for kg. But if anybody does want one, they can certainly just phone in and we'll take the order over the phone, or you can wait till tomorrow until it goes up. It's up to yourself, but it's fairly indestructible, this. So what I would call my day-to-day Bible, and I keep my other one, for in the house and things like that, but it's up to yourself. I don't know, but there we go. I think the kind of Monty Montgomery, you live in Egypt, we can try and get a book to you in Egypt, but I'd caution you, Brother Monty, I'd be very careful, because if the Egyptian postal services open that book and they see what that book's about, you might have a bit of trouble, my friend. Just putting you. What do you think of that, Mr. Griffin? A brother lives in Egypt.
I certainly wouldn't order it if I was in one of the Gulf states or Saudi Arabia. Definitely not. Egypt is on the side, relatively speaking, the side of the angels at present, but it is still a state with obviously the Islamists are out of power, but there's still powerful Islamists there, possibly in the postal service. I would have thought discretion is the better part of valor there, and it's better to wait till you're on holiday or back in the UK or back in the States, wherever you may be.
I don't want to watch a YouTube video you being dragged through the streets.
On someone's head on a pole.
Bike or something. We don't want that. Well, we're going to finish up fairly soon. Again, it's been a very interesting discussion, and I would just like to say, on behalf of the Templars, like the Hagia Sophia, one day, mark my words, the good Lord himself will restore that to its former glory, and that city of the fake name Istanbul will no longer exist, and it will be once again known as the jewel in the crown of the church, and it will be called Constantinople, our holy city, and that's what it's going to be one day. And until that happens, no Templar should really sleep soundly in their bed at night. Until we have Constantinople back, we're not complete. And the other thing is, we have a field in the Christian world, we have a field that has been lost to us, and that field, that fair green field that's been lost to us, is Kosovo. The reality is, Kosovo is Serbia. That's it. There is no discussion, and we will never ever rest until Kosovo is firmly flying the holy flag of Serbia again. And that's it. There's no discussion about it. We're not interested in debating the point. That's it. Kosovo is Serbia forever. It's a holy place, and it needs to come back to the fold. What do you think of that, Mr. Griffin?
I agree. There's only one issue with that. For Kosovo to be Serbian again, it needs lots of Serbians. And we're looking ahead in the future. So we're back to the old demographics, and any young Serbians watching this, there's only one way you can really, right now, make a genuine contribution towards this future liberation of Kosovo. And that's to say, right, I'm going to have children. I'm going to get married. I'm going to have children. Or if they are married and they already have 3 children, have another one for Kosovo. Have one after that for Kosovo. And if you're too old to have kids, find a young family who, whether they're your own direct bloodline or just your kinfolk, find a young family that you can help and encourage to have more children. Because in the end, the people who hold the land are the youngsters.
Absolutely.
It's mums with cradles and dads with ploughs and with AK-47s. If you haven't got young kids, don't hold land.
Reminded you remember you were there that day, this old priest gave me this cross. You've got one that opens up.
I've got one, and it's filled with soil from the field of the blackbirds in Kosovo. Well,
this one is going to be filled one day with the soil from Zion, the holy city of Jerusalem, when we when the cross, not the crescent or the star, is once again dominant in the holy city. The soil from that city, from Golgotha, will fill this cross, and I hope to bring it back to Europe. It's fantastic. Make Serbia great again. Absolutely, yeah. We need to get back what was ours and what is rightfully ours, and that's it. So a very good discussion today. I think it's interesting, and a lot of people who are in here are from different countries all over the world, Nick. So it's good to get people in and you can hear a different thing. It's Neville Walker. Jim, are you bugged? Of course I am. Bugged to death. Are you joking? I'm followed. when me and Mr. Griffin were in Serbia, we had the Serbian Secret Service following the British Secret Service following us. And I think with some other secret services, nobody really knew who they were. We don't know if they were Yanks or Frenchies. We don't know who they were. But we're followed, bugged. That's why I never say anything anywhere that I wouldn't say in a court of law. My phone is bugged. My email's bugged. Everything about me is bugged. And Mr. Griffin, we're bugged to the nth degree.
Buggery.
Bugged to buggery, yes, aye. But it's true. So always be very careful what you say. And again, I'll reiterate this. You know this, Mr. Griffin, but I haven't said it for a few months. Never, ever, ever, ever encrypt anything. Never. And never get into these safe and secret chat rooms. Never. There's a place called GCHQ. It's the biggest data gathering place in the world. The Americans use it, the Brits use it. There's billions per hour of communications flying about, so they all just get into some database and nobody really looks at them. The ones they clutch and grab out the sky are anything that's encrypted, anything that's coming through some sort of secret means. And if you honestly think that the CIA and MI5 and all these people cannot debug them, you're insane. Because the people who boast when they sell these packages, use our stuff, nobody, even the CIA can't crack it. That's a man. He has a house, he has a wife, he has children, perhaps grandchildren. Men in black turn up with the glasses, a giant Desert Eagle 50 cal, stick it in his mouth, or pick his son up, stick it in his mouth and say, give us the codes, or you'll be cleaning up brains. That's how it works, folk.
I think they also just talk about the IRS.
The IRS.
They just talk about the taxman.
But so don't be fooled. Never say anything that can get you into trouble on any platform whatsoever. I tell you what I do, folks. This might make you laugh. Somebody said there, GCHQ, the only government department that actually listen to people.
Very good.
Well done.
Very
but no,
good.
Listen, if I've got some stuff to say that I don't want anybody hearing because it get me into trouble, this might sound a bit weird and a bit kinky.
I want to leave the room at this point.
You know what's coming. I go into a country club that I'm very friendly with. We strip off and we get into jacuzzi and we hit the big button and the bubbles are flying out all over the place and you're having to whisper at each other. Naked! There's a jaybird! Nobody can hide a mic anywhere. And that's, if I have to have those discussions, I have those discussions. I don't have those discussions very often, but occasionally I need to. So it's a horrible sight. If you want to expose yourself for nakedness to me and vice versa, you must have something very important to say to me. So I don't want anybody else hearing it. So it puts a lot of people off, Nick, saying, Jim, I need to speak to you in confidence. Well, here's the rules. Forget it. It's not that important anymore.
I want right here and now to put on public record the fact that I've never discussed anything in confidence with Jim Dowson. I never will.
All right, Nick. Well, listen, that's all for us today. We need to go. God bless you. Thanks for coming on, Nick. And I think we'll give our people the old orthodox salute as we leave the room for this evening. Dear Walt.